America's Voice family.
Are you on Gettr yet? No?
What are you waiting for?
It's free.
It's uncensored.
And it's where all the biggest voices in conservative media are speaking out.
Download the Gettr app right now. It's totally free. It's where I put up exclusively all of my content 24 hours a day. You want to know what Steve Bannon's thinking? Go to Gettr.
That's right. You can follow all of your favorites. Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec.
And so many more.
And the best part?
You can watch Real America's Voice right there on Gettr.
Live.
So join the conversation.
Hop on the Gettr chat room.
Engage with patriots who are just like you.
Good morning, Gettr friends.
We're breaking news, we're delivering the truth,
And we're doing it on Gettr
Every single day. So don't wait. Download the Gettr app now.
Sign up for free and be part of the movement.
It isn't just an app. It isn't just a social media platform. It's a community.
Welcome to Bowling. We have a special show for you today. We were invited, very honored to be invited to the big announcement. Didn't know what it was prior till this morning at 8 a.m. when Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump announced their new business venture. And as you can see, it's Trump Mobile. It's a new cell phone service that they're providing, similar to some of the other cell phone services, but everything's made in the United States. I'll tell you what, before we get into it, I'll let them explain it to you. Personally, we're going to sit down with Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr., and they'll explain it from their perspectives. We have some really, really interesting content coming up. So let's jump right now to Donald Trump Jr. Donald Trump Jr., thank you for inviting us to this, bringing out the first Trump Mobile moment.
Yeah.
Fantastic. What was the inspiration behind this?
Because I think everything we've done as of late has been about creating utility for hardworking Americans, right? You've seen it. Everyone gets feed to death. Everyone gets sort of added on extras. And so what I think we wanted to do with technology in general is create real utility for Americans. They know what they're going to get, and plus, right? So we created a phone system that actually has American call centers to protect our data. We'll actually be manufacturing our own phones as well. You can use your existing phone if you love it, you want to keep it, but also being able to manufacture phones in America by Americans, create that job, maintain that data autonomy, but also add a lot of other sort of utility to people. As part of your $47.45 package is $47 a month and 45 cents. Unlimited calls, texting, unlimited international texting to 100 different countries, but also a component of telehealth and telemedicine, where you can literally get on the phone and call a doctor as part of that same plan and part of that same package, where you can have the utility of roadside assistance. You break down somewhere, to have that all in one place. Just creating a lot of value for people who've probably been underserved with your typical mobile carriers, who just don't really give you all that much, and just, again, sort of get you with the extras every month.
So will the service be using AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile?
It'll actually use, all of the hardware depending on where you are. Right? When you log onto the website, you put in your zip code, it picks the best carrier for you, so you're using that. A lot of that can be done eSIM if you have a new phone, so you can actually switch depending on where you're going or where you're going to be traveling to, so that you're always connected, so that you always have the best possible cellular service available.
So will you be, kind of like the Apple model, will you be adding laptop and maybe even Trump watch capabilities, smartwatch capabilities?
I think all that stuff will be integrated, because, you're going to be able to utilize a lot of the same technology that you'd have, on a Samsung phone or an Apple phone, integrating those same kind of apps. It's about, again, creating utility, not starting from scratch, but being able to do that, but with hardware that's manufactured in the United States. Again, keeping that autonomy, making sure there's no sort of, back doors into your data, putting Americans to work in American call centers, so that we're not, call centers could be great abroad, and while they're your allies, I'm sure your information may be okay, but then all of a sudden the political winds change a little bit, and then a lot of people are exposed. So it's really just part of keeping everything secure and in America while creating American jobs.
During Barack Obama's presidency, I recall I can't remember the incident. It may have been one of the domestic terror issues, but the administration had asked or demanded that Verizon turn over their metadata.
Mm-hmm.
Any risk of that here?
I imagine all of the people that we're working with, the true America First patriots, you do have to follow the law, but we're not going to be opening up, the books to, what was then at least, an aggressive FBI that was actively trying to persecute Americans. I mean, this is very different. We have people that are, true believers in what we're doing. You obviously have to follow the law, and I think the FBI is a little different. They're no longer targeting mothers. They go to PTA meetings as domestic terrorists because they don't want their children being indoctrinated with, whatever woke nonsense, the liberals are pushing. So hopefully we can, and my father's administration can reform all of those agencies that have frankly been, broken and corrupted. But, that process takes a little bit of time.
So, believe it or not, it's one of the most important things on a phone, the camera. Tell us about the camera.
Same thing. Again, we're actually going to try to, use technology that's going to be, as good, if not better, than the stuff that you see in the most recent versions of the iPhone or Samsung phone. So, yes, I use my camera probably more than anything on my phone. At this point, when my phone rings, it's like, oh, I got to pick up the phone. I'm more of a, text guy. But, all of that stuff totally available to the people. And again, if you love your existing phone and you're wed to that, and you want to keep that, you can do that. You can utilize the service, without having to adapt the hardware.
So I'm curious, in the smartphones, will you host even, clearly you're marketing towards patriots, towards conservatives, towards center and center right. Will you host left-leaning apps on the phone?
Of course. I mean, listen, I think we are about free speech. Everything that I've done, whether it's with this or, anything I've done in my own personal life, it's about creating free speech. I was the second verified user on Rumble because YouTube was censoring the hell out of people. There's plenty of people that are left wing on that. The left is really concerned usually about having, others be able to speak their mind. We want everyone to speak their mind. You can hear everyone, and then you could make up your own mind, because I think we truly believe that when you're exposed to all of those ideas equally, you have a chance to hear all of them. Our ideas are going to come out on top. The left screams about free speech as long as they're getting everything that they want. They were totally fine with Twitter suppressing me, you, a lot of our friends and colleagues, because their ideas couldn't stand up. When, Elon took over X and actually allowed, there to be equal or parity for both sides to be heard, they lost their minds because they've never actually had to, articulate their thoughts. They've never actually had to argue them. They were just used to sort of their dogma being put out there and treated as though it's the gospel. And so we're always about free speech and making sure that all ideas are heard and people will make up their own minds. And I think we're confident enough in our ideas that when they're all heard, we win anyway.
You mentioned Elon. Is Starlink one of the players that you may be able to link your phone to?
Listen, ideally, yes. I don't know that we've gotten there, but as for me as an outdoorsman, I use Starlink all over the place. It's allowed me to be in some of the most remote parts of the world and still be able to communicate. I think it's one of the great technologies, that's out there. So that would certainly be something I'd love to do.
Great. So eventually if not now, there eventually be the ability to turn it into a global phone.
I certainly hope so. Yes.
Wonderful. One of the other things we want to talk about, it hasn't certainly not lost on me because I was here 10 years ago today.
Yeah.
The significance of the exact date 10 years ago, your father coming down with Melania, coming down the escalator.
It was a big deal. It's like 10 years, like almost to the minute, as we sit here right now. And, I think it was such an amazing thing. I think he fundamentally changed the face of not just American politics, but probably politics in general. An outsider who had been sort of, frustrated with the system, with the Uni Party for decades. I mean, you go back and watch my father in the mid-'80s talking about his frustrations on trade. I mean, he's probably the most consistent person in the history of politics about these things. But, I remember it clearly. And, he's also probably the person who's, gone through beaten the most level of expectations, the most resilient man in the history of politics.
He's been shot.
He's been shot, and almost attempted to be killed twice, and keeps coming back every time they counted him out. I remember when we went down the elevator, before the escalator ride, he looked at me and he just said, Don, now we found out who our real friends are, Don. And truer words have probably never been spoken. But what was more important about that was not that he just recognized how the world works. He's going to do and say the things that need to be done and said. And that resonated with America. It worked out very well. But he did that knowing full well that so many of the people that he had been friends with or he'd relied on or he had worked with for decades would just absolutely abandon him to take the easy route. And so I think we need more people like that who have that kind of conviction and that resolve to actually fight. And I think that's why I'm very excited that he's back in office now. And now, more importantly, he's back with a team of people who are all on point. It's not just, random Republicans from D.C. who, well, we'll wait this guy out and we'll get back to doing things the old way. I think, he's fundamentally transformed the Republican Party for the better. And I think Trump derangement syndrome has fundamentally transformed the Democrat Party to one that is just a rudderless vessel going nowhere.
You brought it up. We need more people like that. There's a guy named Donald Trump who... any interest in pursuing in father's footsteps?
It's not on my radar right now. I mean, people have asked me that all day today, I guess, so it's an honor to even be considered. I spent a lot of time and energy over the last decade really making sure we can find others, again, who don't just revert to those old ways, who don't just go back to sort of the neocon ways of the Republican establishment. And what's really unique about the last 4 years, as brutal as they were, and I still think we won 2020. I think everyone with a brain understands what happened. But I think the last 4 years did us such a favor. It made the American people understand just how fragile our democracy is, just how fragile our economy is, just how fragile all these systems are. But it also was 4 years of living hell that enabled a lot of young people and a lot of people who were perhaps outside of politics to get in the game and actually fight, create a track record showing that they have that resolve. For me, another 4 years of Trump with going back to the old ways means nothing. For us, it was about creating that runway of people who believe in what my father believes. He's this incredible messenger to be able to get that out there, hammer that home. But we need people who do be able to carry on that legacy. So I love that this last 4 years, was the insanity that it was, because we have a great group of tried and true America First patriots now that can do that. So no, I have no intention of doing any of that now. I love that there's others. Who knows, somewhere way down the line if it's required again. But I think it's the first time in my lifetime where the Republicans now have a bench of people, with followings on their own, who could step in and do this, so that we have, not just this 4 years of Trump, but the next 8 years and hopefully the next 16 years and 24 years, to be able to really reshape the face of American politics in America.
In a crazy way, the 4 years, although very difficult for MAGA and conservatives, may have been the best thing that could have happened.
I think without question. I mean, this 4 years really allowed us to hone those skills. But more importantly, all the Democrats had to do was shut up. Not rig an election, not do their nonsense, and you would have another 4 years of Trump, in the midst of COVID, with a weak cabinet who'd sort of been there. Because honestly, in 2016, when we got in, we didn't know. I'm going to trust this guy in D.C. Well, guess what? That guy in D.C. is looking out for his own interests. Now you have those guys who are on point, who are on message, who believe in my father, who aren't just kicking the can down the road, waiting for him to leave office so they could revert back to whoever was, paying them in their special interests. It's truly a unique opportunity. And so I think he can be so much more effective this time around than he ever could have otherwise.
Great. We really appreciate time. Wish you all the success in the world with Trump Mobile.
Really appreciate it, Aaron. Good seeing you.
Don. Thank you. All right, we got a lot more ahead. Eric Trump sits down with us to tell us, yes, about the cell phone, Trump World cell phone, but also about the future of the Trump organization, the hotel brand, and some of the other things they're doing, some of the technology areas they're getting into, the future of the Trump business empire. Coming up with Eric Trump next.
This 4th of July, celebrate independence, power independence, with the Patriot Power Generator 2500X from 4patriots.com. It's solar powered, safe to use indoors, and it keeps your essentials running during blackouts. And right now, it's more affordable than ever. With our 12-month payment plan, you pay just $299 down today. And tomorrow, your generator's getting shipped out. We'll even throw in 2 free solar panels so you can stop relying on the shaky power grid and start relying on yourself. Now that's real freedom in it. Reliable, renewable, and ready when you need it. Go to 4patriots.com today. Check it out.
Do you have time to take a survey for our disabled veterans? Do you have time to take a survey? Hey, do you have time to take a survey? Hey, ma'am, how are you today?
I'm good, how are you?
Great. Well, I'm with Disabled American Veterans. Do you have a moment to chat?
Yes,
awesome. If you had the opportunity to say thank you to a disabled veteran, do you know what you would say?
I'd feel like I just thank him for what he's done for me, you know?
We actually have that opportunity right now.
Oh my God.
If you turn around, we have one of our veterans with us.
Hi.
Hi, my name's Mike. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I just want to thank you so much for risking your life for me and everyone here. And I thank you for the sacrifices you made. And I appreciate you.
You seem a little emotional. What's going on?
I looked down at your arm and I shook your hand and I realized that you did it at the cost for me. You did it for me and you didn't have to, and I just thank you for sacrificing yourself for me.
It's okay. I'd do it again and again.
You can show your gratitude as well when you call the number on your screen right away, or go to helpdav.org today with your monthly gift of only $19. When you do, we'll send you your very own DAV blanket as a symbol of the care you're making possible for veterans.
When you support DAV, you're supporting veterans like me when we need you the most.
Please call or go online to helpdav.org right away. Your monthly gift makes a difference in the lives of our veterans, now and into their future.
This 4th of July, celebrate independence, power independence, with the Patriot Power Generator 2500X from 4patriots.com. It's solar powered, safe to use indoors, and it keeps your essentials running during blackouts. And right now, it's more affordable than ever. With our 12-month payment plan, you pay just $299 down today. And tomorrow, your generator's getting shipped out. We'll even throw in 2 free solar panels so you can stop relying on the shaky power grid and start relying on yourself. Now that's real freedom in it. Reliable, renewable, and ready when you need it. Go to 4patriots.com today. Check it out.
Well, Eric Trump, thank you for inviting us. Really exciting, the Trump mobile announcement. Tell us and we asked Don Jr., what was the genesis? How did this come together?
Yeah. Effectively, we got into technology because they treated us like hell, right? We started with Truth Social, where they deplatformed us. They took away our freedom of speech. They took away our First Amendment right. And what do we have to do? We have to go out and build a platform so we could actually communicate, to the people of the world, to the people of this country, all based on kind of political weaponization. And they did the same thing with the banks, right? I mean, Eric, I became the most debanked person probably in American history. Every major bank in this country came after us. They sent us letters. We're going to take Trump Tower. We're going to debank Trump Tower. You've got 7 days to move your accounts, all because they didn't like somebody who wore a red hat that said "Make America Great Again" on it. And so what did we do? We got into the crypto space, and we really invested in CeFi and DeFi, in stablecoin, because we kind of wanted to bring financial freedom back to people. And same with the cell phones, right? The cell phone companies have done no one any real wonders. They're kind of antiquated. They haven't changed in years and years and years. They haven't provided the functionality. Oftentimes they're ripping people off. And so we decided to do it, a product that will ultimately be made in America, by Americans, serviced by Americans, customer service in America out of St. Louis, Missouri. You're not talking to somebody in India. You're not talking to somebody in Bangladesh. They're not stealing your personal information.
The call centers you're talking about.
The call centers, obviously. And, it's really great. A great, beautiful cell phone with more functionality, made in America. Eventually, we're going to roll that out in the coming months. And they all say that products can't be manufactured in America. They can. And we're going to prove them wrong. And all these companies are doing exactly that.
So will this company fall under the TMTG or Trump Organization?
It's under Trump Organization. It's under Trump Organization.
That's interesting. Will any interest in bringing this company public at some point?
Well, let's see. You never know. All right. Never say never. A lot of our stuff is obviously private. We've always run that way. We've always enjoyed that. Obviously, buildings like this are all under Trump Org and under a private sphere. But never say never. And I think great days are ahead. So oftentimes we've lived in a society where they've written off the ability to do things here in America. It's going to cost too much. You can't do that. The only place you can manufacture is in China. And we better change that mindset. And you've got guys like Elon who have done that very well in other industries where we can do it better, cheaper, and we can lead the way in terms of innovation. We better be able to do that in America. Otherwise, we're going to lose our way. And I'm deeply committed to that on a lot of fronts. Certainly on the crypto front with World Liberty Financial, clearly with Trump Mobile, and obviously with Truth Social.
Will there be any interactions? Tell us what the interaction between Trump Mobile and the other Trump properties, Trump organization, hotels, whatnot, crypto, purchasing crypto.
Well, a lot of announcements come, but it makes a lot of sense. I mean, that mobile device is how crypto is traded all over the world. You take the least developed countries in the world, and all of a sudden, with a couple pushes of a button, they can be on U.S. denominated currency, backed by U.S. treasuries, as opposed to whatever currency they're under that's probably being devalued at 5,000% a year because they're in, massive inflationary environments. And guess what? They can do that all off of a mobile device, and it's amazing. That mobile technology is incredible. It's only going to speed up because of cryptocurrency. That's going to become your bank. That's going to become all payment processing. That's going to become your credit cards. That's going to become your entire life. But then you look at telehealth. That could be through your mobile phone seamlessly. But our healthcare system has been very slow to adapt. You look at basic features that you'd want in your life for protection, roadside assistant, other security measures that can all be on your phone. Yet these phones have done a very poor job kind of embracing so many of those functionalities. So I think there is a point where you can actually roll these up and have them all work together.
Telehealth, telemedicine, where does it link to?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously you're going to link to third-party providers, licensed providers who, and how many times do you get a sinus infection, you know exactly what you have, and you need a Z-Pack, and you literally don't have the time to go out to a doctor, and yet you could, use telemedicine. I think it's a very powerful tool, and that's all coming, and it's all coming through your phones, and we're going to be one of the first people to offer it.
It strikes me that the model could be similar to the Apple model, the iPhone models. In other words, will there be a laptop version? Will you have a Trump watch or Trump mobile watch that is smart enough to speak to the phone?
Yeah, I mean, first we want to have the best plan, and we want to have products that are built in America, again for Americans, that are serviced in America, and that's the ethos, and give you more bang for your buck. So the plans are $47 a month, and that's unlimited text, unlimited calling to over 100 countries around the world. So your connectivity with loved ones overseas. If you're in the military, that's especially important. It becomes more accessible than ever before, at more affordable prices, and so there's so much more that the industry can do. And so when you kind of bring these kind of software products, and really cloud-based products, and then these new financial concepts, i.e., kind of the cryptos, and all of a sudden you go off on kind of mobile phone ventures, there's a great ability for all of these to have connectivity and create something really special. So
is Trump Org going to move into more diversified businesses outside the hotel and those types of businesses? And may I also follow up with, a lot of people would love to know, the Trump Hotel in Washington, D.C., any interest in acquiring that back?
Yeah. Real estate will always be our core. We love real estate, right? You're sitting in Trump Tower. That's kind of, one of the buildings where it all began. And, it's a big part of what we do. We've got over 25 projects around the world, some of the biggest hotels going up, literally on almost every continent. We're so proud of them. We're so proud of the company, the hospitality side. But listen, technology is here to stay. Digital finance is here to stay. That is, it's here, and it's progressing incredibly quickly. And the people who don't embrace it, i.e. the big banks that don't embrace it, they're going to get run over. They're going to get run over by something that they don't even see coming, because it does everything better. It's faster, it's cheaper, it's more transparent. On every front, you're cutting out middlemen, you're getting rid of currency conversion rates, seamless transfer of funds 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, versus the traditional banking schedule that's 9 to 5. Technology is blossoming around the world. You see, obviously, the advent of AI. You see the advent of the data centers, kind of the universe that's opening up. You better embrace it. Otherwise, again, for the third time, you're going to get left behind. And so a big core focus of ours is technology, is platforms, is digital finance, is really communications, i.e. protecting First Amendment, through platforms like Truth Social. And we're all in. We're all in. Real estate will always be a big core of it, but we are all in on the technology side.
It strikes me that agree with all the assessment of how important the mobile phone is and will continue to grow and become. Securing the data, the metadata. There was a famous Coinbase hack recently. There's another DNA, one of the Ancestry DNA hack. How secure is the phone going to be?
So Coinbase is a great company, a great American company. But if you read into the hack, that was some call center overseas where somebody paid one of the call center workers to extract data, it's kind of why we want our call centers in the United States of America, right? It's incredibly important. And that's what people want. People want somebody who speaks the same language, that's familiar to them, where they actually believe the name that's being given, at the front of the call. It's everybody's called into these call centers where like, I'm not speaking to John, and I'm not speaking to John. And, it's nice to, again, provide service for Americans by Americans. And that's what people want. And so in the digital age with cybersecurity, it's more important than ever. I think the vast majority of people in this country, certainly Republicans, but probably independents as well, a lot of Democrats probably don't trust their mobile devices. I think a lot of the big agencies and a lot of the weaponization toward them over the years is pretty conclusive at this point. I think everybody would understand. And so I think people want the safest environment possible. And that's also important for not having bank accounts hacked into, not having. So the more I think the industry can progress safety measures, and the more that you can focus on safety protocols, I think the better you're going to be and the better society is going to be. And clearly something we're going to focus on long term.
Will Starlink, obviously AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, will Starlink also be an option at some point? To tie into?
Well, Starlink's doing a great job, and they're implementing that on a lot of the platforms. Obviously, T-Mobile, Starlink, connects with them, and obviously, I think you're still going to need the 5G because, trying to communicate with satellite that's 240 miles in the air, it's obviously a lot harder than a little cell tower that's 100 yards from you. I mean, the physics barrier that you have to overcome is astronomical. At the same time, I think Starlink's something that will always be able to provide, and what Elon's doing is beyond incredible. But I think that's always a great base to maybe provide somebody with 2 bars or 3 bars, provide somebody access if they've got clear line of sight to the sky, and they're in northern Canada, they're in Alaska, right? I mean, what he's doing is incredible, right? You're really just adding additional service on top of these carriers, but I think the carriers are going to remain big, remain strong, and 5G is obviously here, and it's here to stay, especially with streaming and all the newer platforms. 5G is absolutely here to stay.
Just a little fun questions. Is there any truth to the rumor that YMCA will be the default ringtone?
Honestly, you might have given me a great idea. So I think after today, and I think after this interview, Eric, it certainly will be. It's a hell of an idea. So, and thank you. We'll name that. We'll give a little asterisk behind that. We'll say thanks to Eric.
It's yours. I don't need the asterisk. Thank you. Eric Trump, thank you, and we wish you all the greatest success in the world with this.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it.
When we come back, Stuart Kaplan, a former FBI, who tells us exactly how secure this phone is and why it's so important.
Yep, your worst nightmare. Your car broke down. Now you're worried if it's going to cost you a fortune in repair bills. Unless you already called CarShield, the legit #1 auto protection company in the country. When you're protected with a plan through CarShield, the process is smooth like ice and done in as little as 3 steps. 1. First, the tow truck takes your car to the shop. The cost of towing, covered when you got a plan through CarShield. Next, you probably need to get around while your vehicle's being repaired, right? 2. Plans through CarShield have rental car options too. Then comes the best part. 3. When you pick up your vehicle, you don't have a big repair bill to worry about. CarShield administrators get your covered repairs paid directly to the shop, so you're back on the road with no worries. Call now to get an affordable plan through CarShield for your vehicle before it's too late. When you call CarShield, whether you got a small problem like a power window motor that could cost a few $100s, or a big problem like an engine or transmission that could cost you thousands of dollars, you're taken care of. CarShield is the #1 auto protection company in the country, and their administrators have paid out more than $1 billion in auto repairs. That's billion with a B. CarShield is the choice that gives you the CarShield guarantee. Your rate never goes up, and your coverage never goes down, no matter how many claims you have. Look, it's inevitable. As your car or truck ages, the parts and components are gonna fail. It's not worth the risk. Call CarShield now.
Waiting until your car breaks down is too late. Call CarShield for coverage on up to 5,000 parts and get the CarShield guarantee, where your rate never goes up and your coverage never goes down, no matter how many claims you have. Call 800-653-8201. 800-653-8201.
Funerals can easily cost $9,000 or more, but government benefits pay only $255. If you're between 40 and 85, get your free Funeral Advantage Guide. Help keep your family financially protected with up to $20,000 cash immediately.
It's so easy. Just answer a few simple health questions.
Funeral Advantage is something we'll all need. There's no risk or obligation.
Call 800-849-7919.
All right, folks, the Trump administration trying to right the country. However, they can't take your personal finances into account. You have to do that yourself, and that's why thousands of Americans are buying gold now from Birch Gold. Here are the facts. In the past 12 months, the value of gold has increased by 30% in the last year. Whatever investment in the world went up by 30% in a year. Central banks are buying gold in record quantities, so demand doesn't seem to be subsiding at all, and the real reset is on the horizon, where BRICS nations are looking to unseat the U.S. dollar as the global reserve currency. That's a bad thing if that happens, folks, but you can find peace of mind in gold. Birch Gold makes it extremely easy to convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or you can buy gold to store in your home safe. That's exactly what I do right there. I buy it, I store it in my safe at home. Just text America to 989898, and Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, only useful information. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, take control of protecting your savings today. Text America to the number 989898. Welcome back, everybody. We have Stuart Kaplan with us, a very fortunate coincidence, by the way, and this is completely transparent in coincidence. I'm at the Trump mobile announcement, and a gentleman comes up to me and says, "You know who I am, right?" I look at him, he looks familiar, and turns out he's my lawyer. He's my lawyer, so full transparency, had no idea I was going to see him or he was involved. Stuart Kaplan, thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about your involvement with Trump Mobile and what it's about.
Well, Trump Mobile really was a vision that really came together, if you really think about it, during the COVID pandemic, and when the supply chain disruption happened. It was the first time in my life that I really saw how we were really, as Americans, tied to overseas markets with respect to just parts and technology, and it really came to a screeching halt as we all suffered through that. And then that, and just in my mind, and then came to me spend a lot more time with my former FBI roommate, who retired as a deputy director, who ended up being the head of technology for the FBI. And in our discussions, which were daily, I was not really aware of how vulnerable we are with our cell phones, not only here domestically, but even more so when we travel, that our cell phones are a target of people that want to grab our information and then exploit it. And it could either be for human trafficking, sex trafficking, all the things that we all unfortunately have heard about, and even more so how our younger generation is more vulnerable to the hacking, the penetration, and our cell phones, which we all become so reliant upon. And I started to just throw ideas up. And then, of course, life as it is, it brings you together with certain people. And so I met Eric Trump and the Trump Organization, and I had this burning desire that I felt that we had become so dependent on our cell phones that, quite frankly, my cell phone, broke, and I needed to drop it off to get it repaired. And, of course, without my cell phone, I didn't know anybody's phone number. And I realized, this cell phone is really your lifeline moving forward. And as technology evolves, we are so dependent on our cell phones. I see the advancement of the phones themselves, the latest and greatest cell phone. But if you really think about it, the technology or the applications within the cell phone have become somewhat stagnant. And I saw an opportunity to revolutionize cell phone as we know it today. It's going to be a completely different scenario with Trump Mobile. And as it was discussed today, telemedicine. I mean, just think about that. You have your cell phone. You can notify a doctor, see a doctor, get a prescription, go to Walgreens or CVS or your local pharmacy and pick up that thing. That is because on your cell phone, you have that mechanism. If your car breaks down, you can call, for towing services through this application. And we're offering all of these free things that we think as Americans are going to make us enjoy our lives that much less stressful. And we're trying to move into the arena of also made in America. Our call center is in the United States. And of course, that's another issue with respect to, I get very frustrated. Most of us, when we call because we have a problem, we're usually diverted overseas, and that becomes a logistical issue. And then sometimes, just by my background, when you are talking to people that you quite frankly know are in another country, you're giving all this information out, and do you really know where it's going to go and how protected it is? And so that led us to put this company together, bring all these great people, all this talented people together, partner up with the Trump organization, in particular with Eric Trump and Donald J. Trump Jr., and here we are today.
Stuart, again, great. All these things, ideas are fantastic. For me, and clearly you're marketing this to conservatives and MAGA and people who are concerned about patriots, who are concerned about the country. My concern also is that what makes this more secure than, say, an Apple, an iPhone?
So the first thing I'm going to just say is, and while you would say it's more targeted to one group versus another, I may necessarily disagree, only because when you think about all Americans and your personal data, your personal information, your credit card information, your date of birth, your social security number, all of those biometrics, we should all, regardless of what aisle you are on or whatever your political ideology is, we should all have the similar concerns. This company is about being here in the United States, the call center is in the United States, the opportunity for nefarious individuals to then grab your biometrics and exploit it. We are reducing that. We are eventually, very soon, going to be manufacturing phones here in the United States. And what I've come to realize, which is very frightening, is these phones that are manufactured abroad, there are bad actors that in fact do what they call trapdoors or backdoor technology, where someone overseas may be able to manipulate your internal functions on your phone, turn on your microphone, activate your camera, grab your GPS coordinates. Trump Mobile is going to pioneer and revolutionize to make cell phone technology and the service as secure as it should be and as needed. And look, if you look at the world and the way the world is evolving with technology, and just look at the current events of the use of technology in warfare, our phones themselves can be turned on us with bad actors abroad. I want to be able to put that layer, that insulated layer, to protect all people here in the United States.
Some people have said the TikTok app is a spy mechanism. Will TikTok be allowed on Trump Mobile?
And that's a great question. And so we're not going to, at this point, refuse any applications, but I will tell you that our technology that we're going to launch and that we're going to have within our system is going to monitor more so for parents and young people, so that TikTok is not going to be manipulated to do potentially what has been, suggested that is being used for nefarious purposes.
So the Chinese app, TikTok, that is available to people in China is different from the one that's available to the Americans. And the one that the belief is that the American version is actually spying on everything we do. All our metadata sent right back to China. I don't even know how you'd be able to insure against that if the app is on the phone.
Well, let me just say, if there are complaints that come in, so right now, if there are complaints that come in with respect to the technology that is deployed right now in all of our cell phones, it basically falls on deaf ears. The carriers are basically deaf to it. We're going to have a different platform. We're not going to be deaf to it. And if we see that certain applications are in fact being utilized first and foremost to exploit or target our younger generation, used for sex trafficking, human trafficking, drug trafficking, that's not going to happen on the Trump Mobile. It's not going to say it can't happen, but our priorities are very, very different. We are not going to allow Trump Mobile to be used as a platform to exploit and target, first, children.
So years ago, and there was I believe it was a murder in San Bernardino, California, and under the Obama administration, and they wanted the cell phone of what they called a domestic terrorist. At the time, it was a Muslim couple who killed a bunch of people in a workplace setting, and Apple said, "We have the back door, but we're not giving it to you." Will Trump Mobile be as, I guess, adamant, pushing back against law enforcement? If that's the case?
So with my background, and I am a firm believer that if law enforcement is doing their job, and I will speak because as being a former FBI, if the FBI, and hopefully will remain what it is now, not weaponized as it was in the last administration, if the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and an FBI agent swears out as in a search warrant, and a United States District Court judge signs off on that warrant, then Trump Mobile is going to comply with the warrant requirements with respect to turning over that information. But what you saw was Apple took a complete, one side of the equation and didn't realize that in national security situations, there needs to be the balancing of a national security concern as well as also protecting the privacy of all Americans. What we have seen, unfortunately, in the last 4 years is that all of our rights were tramped upon, especially our First Amendment rights with respect to shutting us all down. I truly believe in the First Amendment. I believe that there always should be a balancing, but at the end of the day, I think we should adhere to the Constitution as it is written, and also to defer to a sitting jurisdiction, a judge, to ultimately make that decision. I don't think it's for us to make those calls.
When forgive me if I don't know this. When is the phone? Is it launched? Is today the official launch?
In fact, today, the website, from what I understand, the analyticals are off the charts, and that's a great thing. And so after 8 o'clock this morning, it was live, and from what I understand, it was exceeding what our expectations was for the first day.
And so you go on the website and you can use your phone and change carriers from your existing carrier over to Trump Mobile.
That's correct.
Right away, immediately. And the technology is what's called an eSIM. It's basically a digital type of platform where you'll receive a coded QR code. You'll go online and you'll receive it through your email, and you access the eSIM, and you're ready to go. Any truth to the rumor there'll be an app, the self-deport app on the phone built in?
Well, let me just say,
surely I'm joking.
Yeah, no, listen, and that's the interesting thing. I think that we are very mindful that we don't want to be activists, and we want to be visionary. We want to revolutionize this space. But I want to say to people that are listening to this, regardless of whatever your political views are, we are here for all Americans. We're not just targeting one group. I personally, and I think the group that is supporting us, we're all aligned with respect, with understanding that our safety and our security and the preservation of our national security as a country is really at the forefront of everything that's going on in the world, and we should be unified to protect together as Americans all of this other collateral stuff, because I think that Americans, quite frankly, to some extent, either take for granted or don't realize there are a lot of people in other parts of the world that really want to see the United States fall on its bended knee. And I don't want to ever see that, at least in my lifetime, ever happen.
Very quickly, these organized protests, right? If folks are using these phones to organize protests, is there a way to get involved in making that not happen?
Well, look, Eric, I will tell you that on a national security platform, there is technology out there that can be deployed that can monitor all of us, but it has to be deployed for the right reasons. And so, again, if the FBI is conducting a routine criminal investigation outside the sphere of a national security issue, they're not going to deploy that type of technology. But if there are issues that, quite frankly, affect our democracy and the potential fall of governance, then that does become a national security issue. And I am a supporter of those assets and resources that are only known to the government or to the FBI or to other federal partners. It is rightfully deployed with the right restraints to understand that it should not be abused.
Fourth Amendment, very important one.
That is correct.
One of the probably the third most important one. Stuart Kaplan, thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.
Good to see you. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll be back 2.5 minutes.
When surprise breakdowns happen, American Home Shield will be there to fix or replace parts of the systems and appliances you rely on every day. They help protect your time and money by connecting you with qualified pros and helping pay for covered repairs or replacements. AHS offers flexible and affordable plans for every home. Sign up today and get $100 off with code AHS100. Visit AHS.com or call 833-PLAN-AHS.
Wounded Warrior Project empowers post-9/11 veterans and their families with life-changing programs and services.
I faced my PTSD, and I'm a better husband and father because of it.
We help warriors get the expert care and support to thrive.
I got involved. I got healthier. I got to be an athlete again.
Through our programs, community, and advocacy, we're proving
anything is possible.
Learn more at woundedwarriorproject.org/connect.
Victims of mesothelioma and their families may be entitled to receive a cash award from the estimated $30 billion in asbestos trust funds now available. Over $50 billion has been awarded already. If you have been diagnosed with mesothelioma or lung cancer caused by asbestos, call the number on your screen now. We have served victims of mesothelioma and their families nationwide for over 30 years. We have successfully recovered hundreds of millions of dollars for thousands of our clients. Even if a family member has passed due to mesothelioma, you may still be entitled to a cash award. So call now for your free evaluation. We want to help victims of mesothelioma and lung cancer, and your families get the financial compensation you deserve from the estimated $30 billion in trust funds now available. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with mesothelioma,
call 1-800-249-6117 now or visit us at mesofund.com.
There's nothing worse than losing your dog before their time.
That's why I created Dr. Marty Nature's Blend, designed to help dogs with everything from digestive issues to itching, even moving better.
Nature's Blend works because it's freeze-dried. So instead of destroying the nutrients with high heat, they all get right into your dog's body.
Take it from a veterinarian with over 50 years of experience saving dogs' lives. I have never seen a food make this much impact on a dog's health.
For a limited time, get up to 54% off Dr. Marty Nature's Blend, plus a free gift with our special TV offer. Call or go to drmartypets.com/TV.
Tax day may have passed, but for millions of Americans, the real trouble is just beginning. If you missed the April 15th deadline or still owe back taxes, the IRS is ramping up enforcement. Every day you wait only makes things worse, with over 5,000 new tax liens filed each day. Well, the IRS uses tools like property seizures, bank levies, and wage garnishments. They're applying pressure at levels we haven't seen in years. Increased administrative scrutiny means collections are moving fast. But there's some good news, a silver lining, so to speak. There's still time for Tax Network USA to help. Self-employed or a business owner, doesn't matter. Even if your books are cooked, they're a mess, they've got you covered. Tax Network USA specializes in cleaning up financial chaos and getting you back on track fast, even after the deadline. It's not too late to regain your control. Your consultation will be completely free. Acting now could stop penalties, threatening letters, even surprise levies on your bank accounts before they escalate. Call 1-800-905-8000, 1-800-905-8000, or visit tnusa.com/RAV. You might have missed April 15th deadline, but you haven't run out of options. Let Tax Network USA help before the IRS makes a move on you. Welcome back, everybody. Let's round out this show with a really, really interesting guy, a really interesting topic. David Gettr is the host of Breaking Point on RAV, but David has also spent some time at both ICE protests. Let's call them protests. I would call them riots, but we'll call them protests for now, and also the big, beautiful military parade over the weekend with Trump in D.C. Tell us about the difference between the two.
Yeah, it's like a tale of two Americas, Eric, and I'm so glad you're with the network, and thank you so much for having me today. I just wanted to say that, there's two different
different pictures going on here. The military, the diverse military under Trump, recruitment is up 56% in contract signings from the same period last year. Minorities, all different races, colors, creeds, religions in the military, and the parade goers, not just the family members who came, but the 200,000 people who came out to the parade. It was extraordinary, and it was heartwarming, right? And it'll go a long way maybe for future recruitment.
Well, they say it's going to be a massive recruitment tool that, on top of whatever Pete Hegseth is already accomplishing, which is a lot. He's doing a great job as Secretary of Defense. So we'll get back to that in a minute. But you had some interesting video, and we'll roll this as you talk. You went to an ICE protest, but you say that some of the New York City cops finally stepped up.
And just to lead in with the Pope at the Pentecost sermon 8 days ago is saying we don't need borders. And I don't think those military guys and the police officers and the ICE believe that, because 20% of the military is Catholic, the majority are Christian, and they believe in borders. So you have the situation going on in New York City last week, right off of Kerrick's funeral, which we covered, bringing down violent crime 56% under Giuliani after Bill Bratton and Howard Safer and then Bernie Kerrick. So the cops kind of got a morale boost. So those days of protest in the city, I covered one day last week over in Foley Square in front of ICE headquarters. And there were about 1,500 protesters out there. Not a lot of Hispanics protesting, very few. A lot of angry white kids, men, girls, and boys, and some Arabic protesters.
Their mommy and daddy let them out of the basement to go protest.
They were on the guilt
make
trip.
A few bucks before they...
Yeah, and a lot of kefias and a lot of shmatas, look like, the Arafat crowd. And they're out there, and they were disgusting. They were chanting things like, ICE, ICE, you better start shaking. Today's pigs are tomorrow's bacon. Death threats to the police, basically, right? It was really sad. And then they're chanting, no borders, no nations, stop the deportations. And now here you have the New York City police force, another diverse group, women, Asians, more Hispanics in the police force than were in the crowd, black cops, white cops, people from the suburbs, just supporting and raising families whose hands have been tied. And under Bernie Kerrick, there were 41,000 cops. We're down to 29,000, and the guys are retiring before they're vested. And they didn't have the
support.
They
don't feel the support.
They don't have the support.
The mayor's office doesn't support, historically in the city, hasn't supported the cops. In fact, police funerals, I remember de Blasio showing up, other Democrat mayors, and the cops who were attending the funerals would turn their back when de Blasio
de Blasio was always 45 minutes late to everything, too. But these people, I think the Kerrick funeral gave a little morale boost because they remember the time when the crime was lower. And these cops have to play mental health professionals, too. And Rikers has 5,000 state prisoners versus 20 to 28,000 under Giuliani now. So they got a little more support recently from Jessica Tisch, the new police commissioner. I think Adams is trying harder, especially with the Trump pressure.
May I?
Yeah.
I think Adams is trying harder because he's up for a tough re-election.
Of course, there's no doubt.
Right now, Cuomo's leading.
He is.
As the contender.
He's got a lot of money. Now he's got support from Bloomberg. It's a sad situation, for at least in my opinion, because, Cuomo led to the deaths of 15,000 seniors while we had Samaritan's Purse in Central Park. We had the HMS Comfort sitting here, and the Javits Center with thousands of beds. And the New York City hospitals pressured him to take the seniors back into the nursing homes, and he indemnified them against prosecution. And a lot of people died. So it's incredible to me that he's running.
Those are your choices as a New Yorker. You have Cuomo now, and frankly, they're the only really two choices in the polls, at least, are Cuomo and Eric Adams. And Eric Adams has recently found, let's call it conservative God, but had spent the vast majority of his term being a complete leftist progressive liberal.
He is, and he always took the sides of the black cops if there was an incident when he was the head of the 100 black members of law enforcement. I felt some racist, reverse racist policies, but he was a cop, and he is trying right now. So that was positive. So when these protesters got up there and were saying these raucous things and throwing bottles at the police and spitting on them and saying all kinds of outrageous stuff, the cops, they fired back at the protesters. They went right in the crowd. They were making arrest after arrest.
Video, some really nice, aggressive, and I love it. I mean, I come from the Giuliani days when stop and frisk was that was a lifesaver. That was a life-saving policy that they pulled right after Giuliani got it.
Yeah, and the misdemeanor arrests went up 72% under Giuliani too. The broken windows, you jump in a turnstile, chances are you had a warrant for your arrest or you are a violent felon. So I was happy to see that because I feel the New York City Police Department has been abandoned, and maybe it's a new story going on, right? I don't know what it'll look like under Cuomo if he gets the mayorship, and there might be a five-way race coming. But New Yorkers step over the bodies on the way to Starbucks. The elitists and the liberals, they were out in the Hamptons during COVID when all the businesses are dying over here, right? Now you got congestion pricing. The buzz is gone. It's not the city that never sleeps anymore. You don't have the bridge and tunnel crowd going to the discos, the Red Parrot, and all the tunnel, like they used to, like Curtis Lewa pointed out. Used to be hustle and bustle, 24-hour restaurants. And so New York City's economy is hurting.
Curtis has a chance.
Well, so we got 28% last time. In a five-way race, he only needs 30+%, right? There's a slim chance. He does have the Republican Party support in the 5 boroughs. But
did you hear when you're in your time in these protests, 86-47, that chant?
No.
Because that's the chant that, and they're doing it now. The No Kings protests on Saturday. Well, you were at D.C. There was massive protests around the country, and one of the things that they all had in common is they were chanting 86-47, which is a dog whistle to assassinate President Trump.
Yeah, and look what happens, right? And most of the violence in this country does come from the left. And I've been at a million things for Donald Trump, going back to the Tea Party and going back 40, 50 years. The Tea Party, we had 1.5 million people down in D.C. There wasn't even a lick of litter on the floor. The parade the other day in Washington, D.C.
They cleaned up. The Tea Party cleaned up after their fair First Amendment right protests.
They did.
These aren't those, though. These things that are going around the country right now are Trump derangement syndrome lunatics who have no regard for the community and therefore leave it a mess when they leave.
Yeah,
break it up, burn it, break the windows, and then leave it a mess when they leave.
Yeah, and that's what the leftist politicians want in America. They want divisiveness, and I think the parade was a show of unity for America, especially with that diverse crowd. Those guys driving those M1s and the self-propelled howitzers in the streets of Washington, D.C., they were smiling. It wasn't like I was in Moscow in '86 and I saw the tanks in the street, but they were there by force, right? And the people didn't have freedom. But here, this was a joyous and celebrative event, something very special, and it's kind of nice.
They made it a history lesson, which is really fascinating.
Sure.
The concern on my part was that I really didn't want to see a bunch of military equipment. I want, and they turned it into the history of our republic.
I thought that was exciting because I understand the criticism. Some veterans came out and said, "Oh, we don't want to be like North Korea. We don't want to be," but it wasn't that. And it was a celebration, and it's an investment, and it's a recruitment tool. But it was Flag Day and the 47th president's birthday, and then we have the Navy anniversary coming up, also 250, and we got the Marines right after that. It actually, once I was there and in place, and I was watching everybody join in a RAV coverage with the team. It was very, very special. And I first went to Washington, D.C. at 7 years old for the Easter egg roll with Jimmy Carter, and we met Jimmy Carter and Walter Mondale. And
Jimmy Carter, did he need the Easter Bunny to show him where to go next, like Joe Biden?
No, he didn't. But I would just add that D.C. has the buzz again because I was at the Biden inauguration covering it for RAV, and it was dystopian with 4,000 troops sleeping, 200 people in a tent.
Sleeping in parking garages, you remember that? And the walls, the metal walls all around.
Yeah, and the businesses were dying.
We got to go. Tell us about the show very quick. Breaking Point.
8 a.m. Saturdays, Breaking Point. We got some great stuff. So I got some more footage from the parade, and stay tuned. Check it out.
Thank you, David Zier.
Thank you so much.
All right, folks, that's it. What a day. What an amazing event at Trump Tower, Trump Mobile announcement. We'll turn it over to Steve Bannon in the War Room coming up right now.
When the grid goes down, what's your plan? I'm Kate Courtley, former Navy SEAL. I've defended freedom around the world. And here's the truth. Freedom starts at home. That's why I trust the Patriot Power Generator 2500X. Solar powered and built tough to keep your fridge, phones, and medical devices running with no gas and no fumes. This 4th of July, get 2 solar panels absolutely free. Stay self-reliant. Go to 4patriots.com. Get peace of mind before the next blackout.
Life insurance is a wonderful asset, but what happens when you no longer need it, or you can't afford it any longer? Meet Tom and Susan. They chose to sell their $1 million life insurance policy for $200,000 cash. Now, they're sailing through retirement. Like David and Eunice, who sold their $300,000 life insurance policy for $30,000 to help make dreams come true. If you own a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, you may be able to sell all or part of it for cash. Get an instant estimate of what your policy may be worth at ovidlife.com or scan the QR code on your screen. There's no cost or obligation to sell, and it won't affect your coverage. You can even choose to sell a portion of your policy while maintaining some coverage with no future premiums. Or call 1-800-485-6200. That's 1-800-485-6200. Or visit ovidlife.com now.
Tired of the hassle and high costs of selling a home? We can help. At Ideal Agent, we'll connect you with a top local agent that'll sell your home fast for top dollar, and all this for as low as a 2% commission.
We got the top dollar for our house and the lowest commission that I could have imagined. The house sold in 2
A very important document. A little windy out here. Come in there. We just signed it, and it's done. And so we have our trade agreement with the European Union, and it's a fair deal for both. Going to produce a lot of jobs, a lot of income, and we have many other ones coming. But you see the level of enthusiasm is very good. But the relationship that we have is fantastic. So I just want to congratulate you.
But Donald, thank you very much. This now implements on car tariffs and aerospace, our really important agreement. And so this is a very good day for both of our countries, a real sign of strength. So thank you again, Donald. A really important day for both of us.
Great people.
Has anything changed in the agreement since you spoke on the phone from the Oval Office?
How much?
No. This is implemented.
De-escalation in Israel and Iran, but you are the key to unlocking that.
That's right, and here I am.
And here you are. Yeah. So can I ask you, sir, have you spoken to Prime Minister Netanyahu? When might you speak to him?
I've spoken to everybody.
What will you say?
Israel is doing very well, as you probably noticed, and I gave Iran 60 days, and they said, no, and the 61st, you saw what happened. Day 61. So I'm in constant touch. And as I've been saying, I think a deal will be signed, or something will happen, but a deal will be signed. And I think Iran is foolish not to sign one.
Mr. President, Iran is a huge say to that. Do you think that's true?
No. Look, Iran should have signed the deal.
If it would help bring Iran to the negotiating table, would you guarantee that the U.S. would not get involved militarily?
Well, I think Iran basically is at the negotiating table. They want to make a deal. And as soon as I leave here, we're going to be doing something. But I have to leave here. I have, this commitment. I have a lot of commitments. I have a commitment to a lot of countries, including the UK, where we just signed our deal.
Mr. President, when will
settling on
we're gonna let you have that information in a little while.
On U.S.-Russia talks, when will they restart?
They're starting already.
Mr. President, why is the European supposed to apply more sanctions on Russia? The U.S. support that.
Well, Europe is saying that, but they haven't done it yet. Let's see them do it first.
You told me earlier that you could sanction Russia. Why wait? Why wait to sanction them?
Because I'm waiting to see whether or not a deal is signed.
Can you guarantee the UK won't be subject?
And don't forget, sanctions cost us a lot of money. When I sanction a country, that costs the U.S. a lot of money, a tremendous amount of money. It's not just let's sign a document. You're talking about billions and billions of dollars. Sanctions are not that easy. It's not just a one-way street.
And just quickly, do you think that Israel can
that still proceeding, even if it's sort of what you look at?
Yeah, we're proceeding with that. It's a really important deal to both of us. I think the President is doing a review. We did a review when we came into government, so that makes good sense to me. But it's a really important.
We're very long-time partners and allies and friends, and we've become friends in a short period of time. He's slightly more liberal than I am, to put it mildly.
We stand slightly on the left.
But for some reason we get along.
We make it work.
Mr. President, is your Ukraine getting in the way of arming Israel?
There's quite a few British voters who worry and side more with the Russians over the Ukraine war. Can you reassure them?
No. I just, you know what I side on? Saving lives. I only care about saving lives. We have nothing to do with it except that Biden stupidly let us get into that mess and gave him $350 billion. $350 billion. And yet, despite that, you saw how we did in the Middle East. We took in $5.1 trillion. We have $15 trillion almost, looking around that number, going to be invested in the U.S. So the money is not the thing in this case. It's 5,000 young people are being killed every week in Russia, Ukraine. And if I can stop that, I'll be very happy. They're Ukrainian and they're Russian. So you could say, what am I doing? But I'd like to see if I could stop it.
Do you think that Israel can without the United States military help?
Who said that?
No, I'm asking if you believe they can without
It's
help.
irrelevant. Something's going to happen.
Have you spoken to the legislators?
Traveling to the Mideast as part of any talks if it would help broker a deal?
Yeah, but I think we're doing pretty well. We're talking.
You don't think
we have a thing called a telephone, so we're talking. But it's always better to talk in person.
Mr. President,
regime change in Iran?
I want to see no nuclear weapon in Iran, and we're well on our way to making sure that happens.
We've had a discussion about that this morning. There's in the G7 absolute clarity in relation to the nuclear program. We do not want to see it.
Mr. President,
do you have a response
about any future tariffs?
What?
Can you guarantee the UK will be protected from any future tariffs?
The UK is very well protected. You know why? Because I like them. That's why. That's their ultimate protection. Thank you very much. The Prime Minister's done a great job. I want to just tell that to the people of the United Kingdom. He's done a very, very good job. You know, he's done what other people, they've been talking about this deal for 6 years, right? 6 years. And he's done what they haven't been able to do. So he's done really a very good job.
Do you have any response to Tucker Carlson criticizing you, saying that you were complicit in the war?
I don't know what Tucker Carlson is saying. Let him go get a television network and say it so that people listen.
And quickly, have you spoken to Zelensky before your bilateral?
Yeah, a lot of them.
Japan?
A lot of them. Could happen.
Could happen?
Japanese, sir.
This is the primal scream of a dying regime. Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
It's Monday, 16 June, in the year of our Lord 2025. President of the United States showing a document right there. They've signed the deal. This is not an agreement to agree. This is actually a deal with the United Kingdom, a trade deal. President Trump and Sir Keir Starmer talking it up. We'll get the details about everything. President Trump quite excited about that. Took a couple of shots at our good friend Tucker Carlson we had on A Day in the War. We'll get to all that. We're going to go to Jerusalem in a moment, Yoram Hazane, to talk about all the developments there, including a really fiery interview with Jonathan Carl at ABC News. But I want to start in Minneapolis, the one and only Liz Collin of Alpha News. Ma'am, the whole world is actually focused on Minneapolis today. Walk us through that. You found the assassin, or I guess they still call him the alleged assassin, but the assassin. Walk us through what is going on, ma'am.
Yeah, a lot of developments here, Steve, certainly within the last couple of days. I know we spoke this weekend about this manhunt. Well, that manhunt has since come to an end since we were able to speak after the horrific deaths of the highest-ranking DFL member of the House, Melissa Hortman, and her husband, Mark. They were killed, assassinated by Vance Bolter, who is now charged for their deaths and also the horrific attacks that took place at Senator Hoffman's home. He was shot multiple times along with his wife. So this man, Bolter, went ahead and he was impersonating a law enforcement officer when he went to these homes very early on Saturday morning. We now since have learned that he stopped in total at 4 homes that morning in the course of about 90 minutes or so when these attacks took place very early Saturday morning. So they unveiled at this press conference that took place just a couple of hours ago here in downtown Minneapolis. They showed pictures of what they recovered from his vehicles that morning, including it was 5 different firearms, cash. They first described this as a manifesto, but you're right, Steve, it was really more of a hit list. 60 members, past, present, some actually had been deceased. Democrats were on that list, also a Planned Parenthood location and some other locations there as well. We obtained this list through law enforcement sources and went ahead and released it after Bolter's capture just late last night. It was about 10:30, or excuse me, probably about 9:30 Central Time, that he was spotted. Finally was arrested in a cornfield, basically very close to his residence in Green Isle, Minnesota. There was a large manhunt, and they took him into custody. He ended up raising his hands in the air, walking toward a Bearcat, a SWAT vehicle, and surrendering. And he identified himself right away as Vance Bolter, putting an end to this nearly 48-hour manhunt, the largest manhunt in Minnesota state history. Steve.
Do we have any idea, since there's not a manifesto, we understand he spied on people, or these things were pretty planned. Do we have any idea of why he decided to go assassinate some elected officials, ma'am, and stalked, or at least looked like he had plans to assassinate others?
Yeah, Acting U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson took quite a few questions from reporters at this press conference, but specifically he said, responding to reports of this manifesto written by Bolter, Thompson said he'd not seen anything like a Unabomber-style manifesto in his writings. It sounds like they recovered some writings not only from his vehicle, but from his residence in Green Isle as well, so they're sifting through all of that. Nothing that seems to make any sense. The specific list that we've obtained at Alpha News does have this list of about 60 Democrats on it, and then some Planned Parenthood locations. It does seem that the paperwork suggests that he was in some sort of financial straits when all of this had been going on. He was renting a room in Minneapolis where he would stay for the last 2 or 3 years, just a couple of times a week. And some neighbors I spoke with there said it was very odd. He seemed to be dressing as a detective a lot. And today we kind of connected some of those dots. They were saying that he was surveilling a lot of these people. He had a lot of ramblings and writings in regards to certain lawmakers. And I expect that we'll probably get more on all of that connected to this court case. But they're not even ruling out the death penalty at this point. He today seemed to sit in court kind of expressionless and did ask for a public defender, saying that he could not afford an attorney at this time. So still a lot more questions than answers in Minnesota here, I think, Steve.
Last thing, that we had a controversy on Saturday when we were on the show that they had swept all the social media. That it turns out there's some news items out there that Waltz had some social media posts. They've been taken down. Can you just get us up to speed on the social media and the relationship with Governor Walz? Has that been clarified for people yet?
Yeah, we went ahead and reported. He sat on this workforce board. He was appointed first by Governor Mark Dayton to sit on this board, and then was reappointed by Governor Walz. However, there are about more than 100 of these boards. Many people sit on them. Governor Walz has since come out and it sounds like told the Minnesota Star Tribune that he wasn't aware of who he was. And we were actually seeing his social media, Vance Bolter's social media, sort of disappear in real time on Saturday morning. And this is actually after they were releasing his picture, because somehow after these horrific acts, he was able to get to a bank on Saturday morning at about 9 a.m. And this is where you see the picture of him in his cowboy hat. They released that to the media, but his Facebook was taken down. Some other social media, he was affiliated with a security company. That website was removed. So yeah, as far as that connection, that's what we know at this point.
Liz, where do people go for Alpha News, and where do they go for your social media? You're the axe in this space, leading this story more than any other news source in the world. So where do people go?
alphanews.org is the website. You'll find us Alpha News MN on X, and I'm at Liz Collin on X. Sadly, I wish we just didn't have so much happening here in Minnesota, Steve, but appreciate you having me on.
Fantastic. Great reporting, Liz. Thank you. If you haven't downloaded Alpha News, make sure you do it. Any news coming out of Minnesota, Liz, who's a veteran of local Minnesota news for decades, is always ahead of the curve. I've got a cold open compiled of an interview that Prime Minister Netanyahu gave to Jonathan Karl, and then a couple of clips of Tucker Carlson, and then my dear friend and colleague Yoram Hazani will join us. Let's go ahead and do the cold open.
It's Tel Aviv, tomorrow it's New York. I understand America first. I don't understand America dead. That's what these people want. They chant death to America. So we're doing something that is in the service of mankind, of humanity, and it's a battle of good against evil. America should and does stand with the good. That's what President Trump is doing, and I deeply appreciate his support.
John Karl joins me now. So, John, what else did he say about President Trump and how he wants the U.S. to play a role here, or did he?
Well, look, he praised President Trump over and over again in this interview. He knows that he needs the United States support, at least in terms of doing what the U.S. is doing now, which is helping Israel defend itself from those retaliatory attacks from Iran. So it was all couched in a thank you, President Trump. You've been Israel's best friend, but he made it clear that he would like to see more. He didn't come out and directly say it in those ways, but what you heard, what you played right there, I understand America first. I don't understand America dead. He is really speaking to those in the Trump movement, those in the MAGA movement who are adamantly opposed to the United States getting involved in another Middle East conflict. And as you know, Kira, there are some prominent voices, supporters, outside advisors of Donald Trump who are saying, don't get involved. The United States can't be involved. You campaigned against forever wars. People like Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk. Those are, close supporters of Donald Trump who are saying that they don't think the United States should be involved in this. And Netanyahu, it seemed to me, by using their language, I understand America first, I don't understand America dead, was speaking directly to Donald Trump and to his supporters who are critical of what Israel is doing.
I actually really love Trump. I think he's a deeply humane, kind person. And I am saying this because I'm really afraid that my country's going to be further weakened by this. I think we're going to see the end of American empire, obviously. Other nations would like to see that, and this is a perfect way to scuttle the USS America on the shoals of Iran. But it's also going to end, I believe, Trump's presidency and effectively end it. And so that's why I'm saying this.
What do you mean by that? That's coming from you.
Look, I knew Bush. I knew George W. Bush. We had, family connections to Bush. I knew Bush personally. I still see Bush sometimes. And, of course, he hates me, and he does because I criticized him on Iraq. And that war is the sum total, from a historical perspective, of his administration. But I knew him, and he had all kinds of plans for the things that he wanted to do. But once domestically, right, to improve the country. Right. And you may agree or disagree, but in his mind, he wasn't just about the invasion of Iraq in March of 2000.
Oh, no. He was going to redo Social Security. He had all
100%.
all types of. He was going to take care of the entitlements issue.
And he really thought it was going to work.
Yep.
And you could laugh at that or whatever, but the point is, the second you get enmeshed in a real war, not a fake, let's go bomb the villagers and declare success, though we don't even have a good track record. Like, why are the Houthis still there? I mean, there's a whole other question, which is how prepared is the U.S. military for a real conflict? And the answer is totally unprepared. Scary unprepared. I don't think people understand that. But anyway, the only reason I'm saying any of this is because I really, really care.
Yoram Hazani joins us now from Jerusalem. Yoram, thank you. Particularly, it's the middle of the night there. You're one of the leading experts in the world on nationalism. Wrote the definitive, one of the great books on it. Walk me through. Where do we stand right now? What is this all about? And before we get to the Bibi interview and to Tucker.
He's not there. He's muted on his end.
Yoram, you got to unmute yourself.
Here we go.
All right. Yeah.
Hear me?
Yes, we hear you now, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, we are reaching the climax of a campaign that began on October 7th, 2023. Everybody remembers the days after the surprise attack from Gaza. Prime Minister Netanyahu, his chief of staff, his defense minister, stood before the Israeli people night after night and before the world, and they promised that this was going to be a long war. They promised that the war was not going to end in Gaza or in Lebanon or in Yemen, but that it was going to once and for all reach Iran. Now, you have to understand that many people in the United States, younger people, are waking up, just the last couple of months or the last few years, waking up to realize that there's been this long-standing warfare between Israel and Iran. Many people don't realize how long this has been going or how deeply felt it is. In the state of Israel, across the political spectrum, left and right, for the last 20 years, Iran has been considered to be the #1 threat to the state of Israel and to the Jewish people. The reason for this, among other things, is because the Iranians have never blushed about their goal to eradicate the state of Israel. This is something that they say on a daily basis. They chant it in their parliament. And the goal of putting nuclear weapons and missile systems, ballistic missile systems, capable of delivering those weapons to the state of Israel and to other countries in the region and in Europe and beyond, that is something that for 20 years, all Israeli leaders from all major parties have agreed cannot be allowed to happen. So this is a very old story. The first time that an American administration prevented Netanyahu and his cabinet from attacking the Iranian nuclear program was in 2010. And there's been repeated incidents of this kind since then. The state of Israel cannot live with a nuclear-armed Iran, and that's a wall-to-wall consensus. So this is finally coming to a head. And I have to say, just about President Trump, there have been a series of American presidents who have not allowed Israel to pursue this course. And they've kicked the can down the road. They've assumed that somehow it would be taken care of later. Especially President Obama and President Biden considered Iran to be not an enemy, but a potential friend and ally that needed to be coddled and brought in. President Trump is the first U.S. president who has allowed the state of Israel to pursue its necessary actions for its own defense by seeking once and for all the elimination of the Iranian nuclear program.
But his goal was to do it by negotiations, right? And Bibi comes on Fox News on Sunday and basically lets the cat out of the bag. Last week we were told it had to happen in 24 hours. It had to happen on Thursday and Friday. It had to happen. That was the date, because things are going to happen. They got bombs, they got ballistic missiles, they got nuclear bombs. Bibi then says on Sunday night that, when pressed by Brett Baer, and not pressed that much, that intelligence had come different than Tulsi Gabbard had given publicly back in March, where she said there's no real active program. And no U.S. government official has ever countered that. Bibi says, well, they've done some things. We've got some intelligence, and it would be, they would have a bomb in 12 to 13 months, which is a mantra we've heard before. So why was it about President Trump pursuing the course he wanted was a negotiated deal, as he just said right there. I'm talking to these guys. I'm on the phone. I want to negotiate a deal. Why
Steve,
all of a sudden we have to go with where we have 12 to 13 months?
Steve, you and I both remember President Trump in his first speeches laying out this policy. He was already saying it last December and January and February when he came into the administration. President Trump, as far as I'm aware, has not budged an inch, not an inch. His policy, he must have said this 100 times. His policy was Iran cannot get a nuclear bomb. If we can get it by negotiation, that's what we're going to do. And if we can't get it by negotiation, then we're going to have to do it some other way. We've all heard him say this over and over again. And I don't know that there is some kind of a difficulty. The last, I think you feel this as much as I do, that the last few months have been kind of crazy on the MAGA right, like in terms of the things people are accusing one another of and saying. But I think that any kind of a cold look at this would understand President Trump.
Listen, let me be blunt. I totally disagree. Don't spin this into MAGA.
Yes.
What's been a problem is the really awful military campaign running Gaza just stretches on and on and on. We back Israel more than anybody. And the question still is, why did it have to go Thursday and Friday night? And now we know it's regime change. The problem the MAGA right has with this, it looks like a crass political move by Bibi Netanyahu, who is vastly unpopular in Israel. I think his popularity is 30%. He has a problem holding his coalition together, and this was a blatant political move to try to save himself politically. And if he has to throw the region into a shooting war and needs the United States to come in, then he'll do it, sir.
Look, Steve, part of what's difficult. Look, you've known me for a while. NatCon is my movement. MAGA is my movement. I'm a nationalist conservative. I'm not one of these people who is out there pounding the pavement for America to be involved in this war or in any war. But I do think that over the last few months, there's been a change in the sources of information that people are using on the right in order to discuss the Middle East. I don't fully understand it, but I do know that at least one of our mutual friends said publicly on social media that he reads Haaretz every day, and reading Haaretz is it's literally reading the Israeli communists and the distortions that you get from information, if that's the sources of information, are problematic. So let's take this example that Tucker brought up, the supposed 30% popularity rating of Bibi Netanyahu. So I heard that this evening, and I went and I checked it. And the most recent polls put Bibi Netanyahu at 54%, and he's 30 points ahead of Naftali Bennett, who is the #2 contender for the prime ministership. Okay, 30-point spread. So Bibi, and by the way, if you go back a month or two and take a look at the same poll before the war, you'll see that it was almost exactly the same. There's been nobody anywhere near Bibi Netanyahu in terms of popularity as far as appropriateness to be the prime minister of the state of Israel for years. And so, look, we have to get back to the point where all of us NatCon, nationalist, conservative people, we have different views on different things, but we've got to get back to the point where we're having a reasonable conversation where the information that we're using is information that's based on facts. That's unfortunately not what's happening the last couple of months.
What is the facts? This was proposed. This was put forward that it had to happen last Thursday and Friday, right? There's something come up that it had to go. This is why this emergency meeting, all of a sudden you had to go. This intelligence was shared. And did he not say on Bret Baier that that this would come to fruition, a potential bomb with a ballistic missile, 12 to 13 months from now? There's just this huge disconnect. There's a huge disconnect between what's being said one time and then kind of a reverse course.
I didn't hear the Bret Baier interview, and I also don't think that it's my job. I'm not an employee of the Israeli government, and I don't feel the need to defend absolutely everything that Prime Minister Netanyahu says. I don't know what happened in the particular meeting that we're talking about, and I don't know how the decision was made. But I do know something that I think, to my mind, is much more important, which is that 75% of Israelis support this war. And the reason, that's as of last night, the reason that 75% of Israelis support this war is because for 20 years we've been living with the threat of the development of nuclear weapons by the Iranian regime. For the Israeli public doesn't know and frankly doesn't care whether the breakout was supposed to be in 4 or 5 days or in 4 or 5 weeks or in 4 or 5 months. What nobody argues about at all is that the Iranians want a nuclear weapon, that they're working on building it as hard as they could for all of these years. And for Israelis, that's an existential threat. Now, it may be that there are people in the United States who, at this point, have something of a revisionist view. They've been reading Haaretz, and they don't remember that just a few months ago, it was a matter of consensus between nationalist conservatives, America, Europe, India, Israel. Everybody knew that Iran was seeking to become the hegemon, the dominant player in the Middle East, that it was supplying proxy terrorist organizations, and that it was seeking a nuclear weapon. There wasn't any kind of secret about this. This has been discussed for 15 years openly. So if Netanyahu made a decision that it was now or never, because Trump had said, this is what the Israeli public is hearing in any case. Trump said that the Iranians had 60 days to come to a deal. After 61, something terrible was going to happen. If you get to day 61, it's entirely possible that Netanyahu says, and his cabinet, they say, look, it's now or never. We don't have another opportunity. So as far as
hang on for 1 second. Hang on. We're just going to hold you through a commercial break. Yoram Hazani joins us from Jerusalem. Short commercial break. Back in.
host, Stephen K. Bannon.
So, Yoram, can you tell me, is it Haaretz? Haaretz? Why is that a suboptimal news source?
Haaretz is represents the leftmost 5% of the Jewish population in the state of Israel. It's a newspaper with a very small circulation and has a great deal of prestige because it's read by our lefty elite classes. But look into it. Not only is historically Haaretz a newspaper that opposed the establishment of the state of Israel, the Shokin family that founded it, they were anti-Zionists. They were against the establishment of the state of Israel. It is a newspaper that has, over the years, fought tooth and nail for what we in Israel call post-Zionism, for the elimination of the Jewish character of the state, for the elimination of the right of return to Jews to the state of Israel, and on political issues, like I say, something on the order of up to half of their writers and editors are members of the Israel Communist Party. You're reading party line when you're reading Haaretz. It makes no sense that any conservative of any kind, nationalist, traditionalist, Christian, Jewish, anybody with any kind of a feeling for the Jewish and Christian inheritance of the West would soak their brain daily in a propaganda sheet of that kind. I mean, imagine somebody from another country coming to the United States and saying, "Yeah, I read the New York Times." That's not a fair analogy because the New York Times is far to the right of Haaretz. But if somebody said to you, "I know America because I read the New York Times every day," you'd say, "Come on, give me a break. What's wrong with you?" Haaretz is far, far to the left and always has been of the New York Times. Haaretz teaches the New York Times how to be leftist.
I know you got to bounce in the middle of the night, and we've got Sam Fettis and a bunch of people. The MAGA right, I think a lot of people would say, hey, we have no problem at all. Israel's a nation. It's got its sovereignty, whatever it's got to do, obviously, and they have this war right now against the Muslim Brotherhood in Gaza. If they feel that they're threatened immediately with some sort of breakout, and their intelligence tells them that they have no problem with Israel doing what a sovereign nation can do. The issue is that is predicated upon at least air defense by the United States, and now tremendous pressure on President Trump to actually go onto air offensive sorties, combat sorties. The Nimitz battle group is en route from the South China Sea. We're forward deploying a bunch of tanker, refueling assets, air refueling assets. What is your response to people who say, hey, look, whatever you guys do, go do it. Just like in Gaza, we said, hey, if you got to go through hell, go through as quickly as possible. What's your answer to people? But we want absolutely no involvement with it, sir.
No, my first answer is, like I said before, is gratitude. Thank God that we have President Trump instead of a President Biden or Obama, who is allowing Israel to take care of very basic security needs that for decades have been put off. With regard to American involvement, I'm aware, as you are, that lots of people are saying lots of different things. I would like to repeat the official position of the Israeli government. I'll quote two people who are old friends: Gideon Sa'ar, the foreign minister, and Tzachi Hanegbi, the national security advisor. Both people I've known for many years, and they're good men. And in the last couple of days, they've said clearly and repeatedly, this operation was designed to be blue and white. That's how Hanegbi put it. It's designed to be an operation that Israel can pull off by itself. Now, anybody who's following this a little bit understands that there are some things that would be easier for the Americans to do than for the Israelis. Okay, but that doesn't mean that the Americans have to do it. It doesn't mean that they have any kind of obligation. Israel believes, and I before I got on this evening, I called in a military officer, friend of mine, just to make sure that I'm updated on what people are thinking. And what people are thinking is, you take that underground nuclear facility in Fordow, which is the subject that everybody's been talking about, that it's a deep underground and there's no way that Israel can do it, and the Israelis know that the Americans are going to have to do it. Look, obviously the B-2 can take it out better than Israel can, but that's entirely not the point. What's going to happen if Americans say no, we're not going to do it? Israel's going to go after it. And I went through a number of scenarios with him. I don't think it makes sense to detail them here, but let's just say there are aerial scenarios where Israel has techniques that it believes it can use to get through, to get to the bottom of that mountain and eliminate that nuclear base. There are all sorts of scenarios that involve ground forces, and I won't go into this further. Israel has the ability to take out every single facility that we need to take out. The only question is how risky, how hard is it going to be? And and as I told you in the break, nobody has ever heard me calling for American troops to be sent not into Iraq and not into Afghanistan, not into Serbia. I've never called for any of these. I'm a tremendous skeptic, just like you are. But Israel, as you say, Israel has things that it's got to do. And America needs to make its own decisions. It's a sovereign country. I completely understand my MAGA friends who don't want to get involved in another Middle Eastern war. 100% understand it. It's going to make it a little bit harder for Israel, but the Israelis are ready to do it. It's our war. We know what we need to do. Everybody agrees on what we need to do. And I think that we also have what we need to be able to do it, even if it'll be a little bit harder to do it our way.
Yoram, where do people get your writings? Where do they keep up with you on social media?
You can follow me on Twitter at YHazony, YHAZONY. Please take a look at the new second edition of The Virtue of Nationalism, which I think will have a lot to say, will speak to a lot of your viewers.
By the way, it's a must-read. One of the foundational texts in the nationalist movement. Yoram, thank you so much for staying up in the middle of the night in Jerusalem. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
God bless you. Bye.
Sam Faddis, we always call him. Sam, you got a piece on Substack that got my attention. And help me out here, brother. Tulsi Gabbard is, because this gets down to a very confusing situation. You see, even with Yoram, we don't agree on certain basic facts, but that's okay. About the intel here. Tulsi Gabbard testified, I think, on 25 March that there was no program. They hadn't reinitiated a program, and that was kind of the official intelligence party line of the Trump administration. You're saying there's been a breakdown of intelligence in your Substack piece, which is quite brilliant. You're saying your money right now is on Israelis. Can you walk us through what the breakdown you think is, and why do you think their intelligence may be better than ours?
Well, yeah, I mean, let's start with this. Up front, I'm not trashing Tulsi Gabbard, who I don't know. She's the DCI, she's the head of the intelligence community, but what's she doing? She's presenting to Congress an official report that is a joint product of all the intelligence agencies. So she's reading a document that was written for her, but this is CIA, DIA, NSA, everybody in the world comes together, and she delivers this presentation the end of March. It's a required product, and it says there is no Iranian nuclear weapons program in effect. Short version, there hasn't been one since 2003. So that's 2.5 months ago, and now we have the Israelis bombing everything in Iran, and the Israeli line is not just is there a nuclear weapons program, but there has been a nuclear weapons program. And it's really close to fruition. Now, I take your point that their definition of how close it is to fruition seems to have danced around recently. But even taking that into account, it'd be pretty hard to imagine two conclusions that are more diametrically opposed. I mean, we're saying as an intel community,
this is not. It's either one of. I mean, ours is pretty adamant, and it hasn't been updated by anybody publicly. The other is that, and this is where it came out of nowhere. Like on Thursday, I mean, it had been rumored and people have been talking. I know there's been meetings in the White House and others, but all of a sudden Thursday night we're going for a early Friday morning bombing because something's happening this weekend. So how do we have that? I mean, how can those both be absorbed by decision makers at the National Security Council and people that are advising the president on matters of war and peace?
Yeah, well, that's the question, right? I mean, we were just told they don't have a program. Not just they're further away from it than the Israelis claim. They don't have a program. And in effect, our assessment was they haven't had a program since 2003. Now the Israelis are saying we got to bomb the hell out of them right now because they're about to pop one off and have an active arsenal. Again, pretty hard to imagine two more diametrically opposed assessments. Now, based on the totality of what I know and my experience, I unfortunately think the Israelis are closer to the truth, but maybe more to the point, it seems pretty clear that even though our intelligence community said there wasn't a nuclear weapons program, that all of a sudden our entire national security apparatus is acting like there is one, right? We didn't respond to this by saying, you guys are a bunch of crazy people. What the heck are you bombing? There is no program. And as you noted, you know, there's been all sorts of reports that we're moving aerial refueling assets by the dozens toward the Middle East as if we're prepping ourselves to potentially jump into this thing, which I am not a fan of. But all of that suggests that we think the Israelis are a heck of a lot closer to the truth than we are. And frankly, it scares the hell out of me because intelligence is power, right? If we're relying upon the Israelis to be the ones who tell us what's going on and we don't have a clue, then we're effectively held hostage to them. And look, I've worked with the Israelis. They're allies. I support the state of Israel, but I support the United States more. And we shouldn't be in a position of basically being blind and having to trust that the Israelis are telling us the truth all the time and that we can rely upon them. We should also keep in mind, by the way, they are human too. They're not 10 feet tall. They somehow managed to miss a Hamas offensive that was put together on the other side of a wall right next to their country. So it would be a really good idea if we had our own intelligence and we didn't have to just have them tell us what's going on.
Yeah. Real quickly, we got about a minute. I know your other thing you do in your spare moments, you're one of the leaders of the MAGA, America First, Patriot movement in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. When Bibi Netanyahu tells Jonathan Karl, ABC News, this is not about America First, this is about America Dead. Give me 30 seconds. How does that sit with you, Sam Faddis?
Yeah, it doesn't sit well, man. We don't need a foreign leader telling us when we get to stand up for ourselves. And I live in a part of the country where that has given a lot of blood over the last 20 years to foreign wars. So we're prepared to fight, but we would really like to know why we're fighting and what are we fighting for.
Sam Faddis, where do people go get your amazing analysis, sir?
And Magazine at Substack, so andmagazine.substack.com.
Sam Faddis, you're a patriot and a hero, sir. Thank you for joining us today. Short commercial break. Natalie Winters on the other side.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, the BRICS nations, Birch Gold. Go to birchgold.com, promo code War Room. Or no, it's promo code Bannon. Let's get this right. That would be me, Bannon. You get the end of the dollar empire. The Rio reset. The BRICS are coming for us on July 6th. Understand everything about it. Learn why gold has been a hedge against times of financial turbulence throughout 5,000 years of mankind's history. Now, I know a lot of you, a long time viewers and listeners, have talked to the Birch Gold guys years ago and have had quite a run. But the point here is not the price. It's the process of how do you get to the price. You have to understand that. If you understand that, it's not giving you a fish to eat. It's teaching you how to fish. Do it today. Or take your phone out. Very simple. Text Bannon, that would be me, B-A-N-N-O-N, at 989898 to get the ultimate and free guide to investing in gold and precious metals in the age of Trump. Do it today. And then talk to Philip Patchington. Philip's going to join me tomorrow. We're going to go through, I've promised you, to go through this Financial Times article. Financial Times finally surrendered to War Room and to Birch Gold. We'll go through all of it. Natalie, the Rumble chat nominated you to come forward, and you have one or two things you would like to make as observations to my friend and colleague Yoram in Jerusalem. Your thoughts, ma'am?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, you and Tucker this morning, that was absolutely wonderful programming. I've watched it so many times. But I would like to, I think, respectfully push back on what Yoram Hazony was trying to pitch to our audience. I think, frankly, you lose the argument when your first line of attack is sort of in line with the left wing's idea that the sourcing of your information, whether it's misinformation or disinformation, or it's just some, far left news outlet, that's why Americans are so misguided on this sort of Iranian, I think, which has become a flashpoint for what is a broader discussion about where our priorities, whether it's financial or otherwise, or other regions when it comes down to Israel and the Middle East. Frankly, I think what is going on with Israel, it's not rooted in misinformation or some far-left Israeli narrative being spun. What you're talking about right now is President Trump having the opportunity and the ability to, I think, really push through the kinetic codification of what he has done in terms of burden sharing and the idea of getting European countries, whether it's to pay their fair share via NATO, to actually pitch into defense with Ukraine, to actually have these countries follow through on what very well may be flimsy or hyperbolic rhetoric, right? Like you've been alluding to, Tulsi Gabbard talking about sort of the weird, struck up out of nowhere idea that now suddenly we've hit the, point of no return when it comes to Iranian nuclear capabilities. But But what is I think so different is that this is the Trump administration's ability to, I think, actually put America first and sort of triumph and prevail over these forces, and realizing that there are different geographic definitions of what nationalism is. And Yoram Hazony, who's done wonderful work through NatCon, but he is Israeli. And I don't say that pejoratively. It's a matter of fact. And what he thinks America's response should be through the paradigm of what suits Israel is going to be different from what you and I think, because we're American. And that's the core idea of what it means to be a member of the MAGA movement, right? That your citizenship means something. It's why we're so opposed to H-1B visas. And to link this to the story that I know you want to get into, talking about who's been funding a lot of these left-wing protesters and rioters in LA, particularly one group, the Immigrant Legal Resource Center. We can toss the picture up on screen. Right, this is a group hang on one second.
I think that was tremendous, and the Rumble chat appreciates you being the stepping forward. What we should be focused on, as I said with Tucker today, and I said when I did Tucker's podcast, which should be up in a while, is that of all these things we're working on, the main battlefront here is our sovereignty, citizenship, sealing the border, and mass deportations of these illegal alien invaders. And you're seeing this fight all across. The next three people, and I've been saying we need to pivot away from this, because part of this whole thing with Iran or Persia is to distract us, is to get us off this. And so I've got you, I've got John Lott has an amazing story, and Steve Cortez has some incredible polling that he and his organization have done. So as a piece, I want to go through this. I want to start. We got a couple minutes here. I'm going to hold you through the break. The finance, we have a war we have to win. Stephen Miller says this in the streets of Los Angeles, and President Trump last night, as you said, as you know, Natalie, doubled and tripled down, say we're going to increase the ICE raids in these big sanctuary city centers. We're not going to stop, and we're going to be quite public about it. There is a counter narrative of who's actually financing this and funding this. Take it away, because I think people are going to be shocked about who's actually, because we're at a civil war here, or near a civil war level of intensity when we go into these major cities. Who's actually against us, ma'am?
Well, I think your use of the word war, that's sort of where I was going. We are letting the same people who are funding these left-wing NGOs, the groups that orchestrated the invasion of the southern border, now determine, again, people who don't believe in sovereignty, don't believe in borders, tell us that we should be at war, and that Iran is our new enemy, and that we need to just blindly support escalation into kinetic conflict right in that region. And I think in the same way that all of these, whether it's the left-wing sort of NGO groups that have been funding, whether it's groups like the Immigrant Legal Resource Center, all the far-left groups, the Tides Foundation, the Tides Center, the Open Society Foundations, those people don't care about sovereignty. And now all of a sudden they're the same people who are funding the experts that are saying that the United States somehow to defend Israeli sovereignty needs to get dragged into another conflict in the Middle East. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when, the Biden regime over at the Pentagon was busy ramming through Iranian spies, and then once they were outed, they were busy working overtime to ensure that they could keep their clearances. So all of these people who are making up the rules of what kinetic conflict looks like, it's not altruism. It's not rooted in defending the nation state. It's about profit. It's about power. Case in point, what Iran has done re the nuclear program, I'd like to introduce them to the Chinese Communist Party, which they're all in business with. They have no problem taking money from them, right? It's totally hypocritical. And by the way, the PRC is far more advanced in that realm. They effectively own Iranian airspace. You want to talk about what would happen if we actually got involved in a shooting war there and shot down a Chinese plane? These people don't care. They should be focusing on the rare earths. They should be focusing on the actual economic warfare, infiltration, not invasion. But these people don't care. The same people who orchestrated the invasion at the southern border now want your children and grandchildren to die in battlefields abroad and battlefields galore in the name of, it's not even just profit. That's reductive. But it's disgusting and it's tired, and I wish these people would stop shilling and pushing these narratives that are just insulting to my intelligence and to our audience's intelligence.
Natalie, stick around. We got Natalie Winters, John Lott, about what deportations are doing to murder rates throughout the country. You're going to be quite surprised. Steve Cortez with amazing polling. Also, we're going to talk to one of the world's top experts on my favorite topic, artificial intelligence. Joe Allen will drop by, too. Short commercial break. Back in the War Room in a moment.